Gavin, in 11 weeks' time, you're going to stay overnight at Camp Crystal Lake on Friday the 13th.
Bloody hell, Daniel.
Should we talk about Friday the 13th Part 3 to get ready?
Oh, yes, please. Give me a little plot summary of Friday the 13th Part 3, or Part 3D, or Part 3.
I'll accept
Please
either.
chuck it in.
I'll accept either.
Yeah.
I mean, largely similar ground here.
Yeah.
A group of friends spend the night at a house near Crystal Lake, but Jason's murderous rage isn't sated from Part 2, so he continues his killing right into the next day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's also in 3D.
Yeah. So how does this connect to Friday the 13th Part 2?
Which is like immediately afterwards. It's like the Halloween 2 playbook.
I like that.
Yeah.
I
mean, it is Saturday the 14th.
Yeah, that is weird. Like, I suppose. Because but you still... thing is, they play so fast and loose with the Friday the 13th concept. I don't think anyone really cares.
We talked about that in previous episodes. Like, I don't really know the emphasis that's meant to be put on Friday the 13th.
Yeah, no idea.
Because it's Jason's birthday, so it's a lucky day for him.
Yeah.
But Edna and Harold...
Yeah, the shopkeepers.
The least American-sounding names. I don't think I've ever heard of an American woman, or maybe Edna Mole.
Edna. Yeah.
I think of that as a very British, like, 1976
And Harold,
name.
to be fair. Like, yeah.
Edna's watching the news in the background.
Yeah.
And then we find out 8 people got murdered at Camp Crystal Lake. Now, this is interesting.
Yeah.
Because if 8 people got murdered, that means Paul died. And therefore, the end sequence, which we previously thought was a dream, is real.
Honestly, right? I was tying myself in knots trying to sort this out.
So there were 2 Shih Tzus.
Right. So I was going through it and going... I think that is a dream. But so I looked it up, right? And the screenwriter, Ron Kurtz, says that, you know, he basically said, that bit, when Ginny wakes up and says, where's Paul?
Yeah,
where's Paul? This is what Ron Kurtz says. It immediately cuts to the slow zoom on Jason's mom's face, right? On the head. And he said there's a little wry smile on her face. That smile means that Paul is dead and Jason killed him. That's what the screenwriter said. What?
Because it is a very subtle film. What?
That's mad. That's such a weird... But then I guess this is where we're going to come back to all the time, is like this weird thing where new filmmakers are taking over. This isn't even a new filmmaker. It's the same director.
So did 2 Shih Tzus die then?
Yeah, I guess so.
But I think that's the part of the joy and the fun of
Oh,
Friday
absolutely,
13th is they're not really bothered about this. And we'll talk about this in many decisions made in this film.
Yeah.
They're kind of just unburdened by continuity.
Don't give a shit.
But it's quite funny. They're so unburdened by continuity, but yet still try and make a kind of passing effort to make it connect.
Well, that's...
And these films open with like a recap of the last film.
Yeah.
You're like... do you care or not?
Yeah. I think that's the really... this is what I can sort of put my head together with. And this one has this really weird connecting thing with Chris, how she's already met Jason.
Yeah.
So you're like, so they're connecting it in that way. But it's the most wishy-washy thing ever. It's like, yeah, he came out of the bushes, sort of, I think he attacked me, and then that was the end. Maybe as a part 3, maybe you would... be expecting them to connect a little bit more. But you know, one thing that I was like, I actually don't think I don't know if they were meant to connect or not, because they can stick that thing at the beginning and go, right, now they connect. Nobody calls him Jason by name.
Yeah. But no one should know who he is.
Yeah, I guess
well,
so.
There's contradiction that.
Yeah.
Because how a lot of these kids, so they come here.
Yeah.
Because presumably this is Chrissy's family home or summer home.
Yeah.
We see them elsewhere. They seem like they're college kids. They travel here, so they're not locals. So unlike the kids in part 2, they don't know the legend of Jason.
Yeah.
So you would think if they were brought up near Crystal Lake, they would have some kind of awareness of Jason.
Well, that's the thing. In number 2...
But none of this registers for any of these characters, hence he's not called by name.
Yeah. But in number 2, I think we were like... this definitely feels like the legend of Jason.
Yeah. But it feels like maybe they were more embedded in that community.
Yeah,
because these are
maybe.
there's a big sequence early on of them it felt more of an
Driving,
effort.
yeah.
And this feels like maybe they're yuppies and this is their holiday home.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like that kind of horror trope of them being out of towners.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I guess like the setting as well is kind of strange because in real life, it moved from being shot in these like little small towns to just outside of like LA, I think, in like Santa Clarita or wherever. And it feels so bright everywhere. Whereas like the other one, it really feels like
East Coast, West Coast. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the trees and the landscape are going to be different.
Yeah.
And also when they're doing the lake stuff,
Oh my
does
gosh.
feel like a pond.
It's because they made it. It was like a man-made lake that they just come up with. And then we're just like, well, we need to have a Camp Crystal Lake. It's on a lake or near a lake. It like some of it is just like, that's a puddle.
Yeah, the bit where she's like in it. But so it's called Higgins Haven, her family home.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that actually on Crystal Lake? Or is it another lake nearby? Because the ending would imply... We'll talk about that later.
Same lake.
Yeah, but like, obviously they play very loosey-goosey with kind of stuff like that. I feel like it is like
It's
a
on the
massive
same lake. Yeah, I think it's meant to be
It's
the
like
same lake.
It's down...
Yeah.
Not downstream, but down the other end of it.
Well, think about that. Well, that fucking like Lake Michigan and stuff like that. Like Americans do everything bigger, don't they?
Yeah.
Like
Showing
including Camp Crystal Lake.
You know what's a good lake? Lake Windermere. This Higgins Haven sounds really idyllic, but I think because the third one now, elements are kind of settling down. We've not enough films to like almost have a sense of what Friday the 13th is at this point.
Yeah.
And like we said on previous podcasts, like I've said, I'm less familiar with the series than I am Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween.
Yeah.
Those are the two that I grew up watching. Whereas this, it's very like one location, short time scale.
Yeah.
And here are your group of people, and we're just going to whittle them down. It's almost very refined and very simple. Whereas like Halloween might take place in different locations, different characters.
Yeah.
It's very much just like a short time span. You know what I mean? It's like a mechanism that
Absolutely.
just goes.
I think that's the thing, because I was thinking about like, I think this is, of the three that we've watched, I think this is probably the most fun.
It's definitely, I think it's the most fun. Yeah.
But it's also the least coherent. But this is the thing that I don't understand is like, how the fuck are you tying yourself up in knots? Because like you say, like if like the setting is small, the idea is small. These people are going to go to somewhere near a lake. They're going to get fucking killed.
Killed in interesting ways.
In interesting
and it's the
ways,
third one.
yeah.
We have to make them more brutal, more bloody, more
Yeah.
spectacular. People are turning up to see that.
That's the thing. I did have the most fun with this, but there's also then, I think because there's still, the filmmakers are still, and the producers, I guess, and the people who own the rights to Jason are still kind of finding their feet with like what the series is. Because number one is very different. Number two, he's, you know, it doesn't look like the Jason that we come to know. Whereas here, they're getting their feet and they're kind of getting it.
Yeah,
it's not perfect.
The continuity is like just the mechanism.
Yeah.
The dressing is like shifting quite a lot.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of the people involved, they're just making a fun thing to put out. They're quite mercenary. And that's not a diss. I
No,
feel like they're just
absolutely
like,
not, yeah.
we're turning this out. I think in the moment they're just going, this is cool, rather than it makes sense. Because also we're coming at it after like 20, 30 years
Yeah.
of Jason lore, or like him being a pop culture icon and all that
Yeah.
stuff. They're just there on set going, let's chuck a mask on him.
Yeah. We don't know.
We don't like the makeup.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. I think that's the really interesting thing, because because
Let's have a disco theme tune.
oh my God, best theme tune of the
But
entire
then that's the
film.
thing, is like,
Yeah.
people love the music. Let's just do that. Why?
Yeah.
Why not? I've got a synthesizer.
That's why I genuinely struggle with how the decision to make it 3D came about, because it's not like, oh, it's an established series, it's a really established series and we know exactly what we're doing with it. Fuck it, yeah, let's do it 3D. It feels like this is still a series that's finding its feet and they're still working it out. And they go, yeah, we're also going to make it 3D. What?
I think 3D.
No.
Think 3D is the Hollywood technology version of Pennywise.
Right.
It just comes back every 30 years, and people are like, "We're doing this. Is this again? Is
This
it
again, is it?
And then you go, "No, it's going to really be a thing." And then you go, "I actually hate this."
Because for these 3D thing, to have witnessed this in 3D, would I have to have watched it in the cinema in blue and red?
I think that was the time of 3D. I can't remember what it's
Yeah.
called, but yeah, I think. Yeah.
So would I have watched the whole
Chromatic.
film in blue and red?
Yeah.
Or is it like, put on your 3D glasses now? Because I kind of remember that.
I think Freddy's like that, isn't it?
Yeah.
I think maybe it's all. To be fair, if a rep cinema in London put this on with those, I would absolutely love to go see it. Because you know what, we should talk about the 3D.
Yeah.
There's lots of wild stuff. Do you have a favorite 3D thing?
It's got to be the spliff, right?
I mean, the spliff.
Like,
because there's obviously a lot of like scary ones, horror ones, but my favorite was like spliff, yo-yo.
Yeah.
Just kind of innocuous. Oh, the bit where Shelley throws his wallet. Oh, do you want my wallet?
Oh my God. Do you know there's like shots of the actors like visibly looking down the barrel of the lens because they've done this take many times. So the amount of times
they hit it.
Yeah. So Shelley having to throw his wallet, apparently they just had to redo it and redo it and redo it constantly until they got it absolutely perfect.
I've got a lot to say about Shelley later.
But like that's the thing is
the
like
3D kills are good.
Yeah,
I like that. We'll talk more in depth about kills later on, but like the harpoon, but also things like the snake.
Yeah, I
also love those. You'll see the string that's pulling it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I'm in sort of two minds because, in one sense, I know just from hearing people's stories, apparently like just production was just a nightmare because of it. But then in other sense, I kind of love the idea of them going, should we make it 3D? Oh, fuck it.
Yeah.
Come on. What? This is going to be so much harder. I'm going to spend so much more money on it.
So I love the first usage in the film. Like, you've got people bums on seats, 3D. It's a clothesline pole.
Oh, yeah.
Like that.
Well, that's one of the shots, I think, where you can just see, like, Harold, the actor playing Harold, just like, can't be fucking... Like, he's just, like, looking down, going, have I got this? Can we please go home?
I'm going to go drink some whiskey while having a shit.
Yeah.
But I think, we do have to talk about the elephant in the room.
Go on.
It's not even on Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
First one in the series so far.
So it's the day after the events of part 2?
I think so.
Which I'm fine with.
Because it's the carry on. It's not like April 12th.
No, I think like other than what it means for what we see with Jason and stuff like that, I actually do kind of like that let it carry straight on.
I do like I said April 12th. That literally could have been the day before Friday the 13th.
Yeah, that's true actually. Yeah.
So I've done myself in.
Yeah. But like we should talk about Jason. Like let's talk about the killer.
This is now recognizably Jason.
This is
like what Jason's going to go on. Like when you think of Jason, you think this.
Well, this is what I was going to say is like, I wrote in my notes when I was doing it, I was like, oh, this feels iconic. But does it only feel iconic because I know what comes later? So
it's so hard to strip it all back and think of what you would have thought at the time. I mean, when you hear some of the actors, they don't think much of it. Like, even the decision to put the mask on him, it wasn't like, like now, these things are like workshop or like screened, or you get like, got 50 opinions.
Yeah.
I think they just took it on because they don't like the makeup or they want to show the makeup too much, perhaps. Or it's probably a ball ache to put on him every day or stuff like that. But it's the mask, it's the new makeup, it's the size of the actor, it's also the way they behave.
It's massive.
Also what he's wearing. Why does he have this is a question. Why has he had a costume change?
Yeah.
And also, where's his hair gone?
Yeah.
Because if we're now saying the scene at part 2 is not a dream sequence, so when he comes through the window and grabs Ginny,
that's real.
We see him. He's got like a plaid shirt on and like dungarees, and he's got like wispy hair and stuff.
Yeah.
Now his deformities look slightly different in this as well. He's bald.
They don't look right.
And now I would say this. I actually think he looks quite stylish. He's got a shacket.
Clothes-wise, yeah.
Because I was thinking, has he stolen them from the beginning of the film? But he just. Again, they just gone, here's a new look.
But that's the thing. We thought he looked all right in the second one, but I guess the's maybe going for that sort of like hillbilly style, like Texas Chainsaw. Like,
this is like, you could wear that today and people would not think it's a wild outfit.
It's a bit, well, I feel like I've got a work overshirt that is essentially the same thing as that.
He's on trend.
He is absolutely massive, this guy. So Richard Brooker takes over from Steve Dash.
British guy.
Is it?
He's British.
Apparently the story is Steve Dash wanted to do it again,
They did.
But yeah.
Actor wants to work.
But apparently, and this is I saw this in a couple of sources. Apparently, the producers of the movie were like, "Yeah, but we're not filming New Jersey anymore." And I think Steve Dash's casting was very location dependent. I think he lived down the road, so they were like, "Oh, we're actually going to be shooting in LA, so you have to pay for your own flight." And he was like, "Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm sure they weren't getting paid that much." So he was just like, "Nah, I'm not going to."
To be fair to him, like. Part 1 and Part 2 were quite lucrative films.
Yeah.
Could have paid for his... I guess for them, the rebooting, the look at... It's not like the performance of Jason in 2, where I think people do look at the performance in 3 and go, those are elements of Jason that have got continued on.
Yeah.
And I think partly that's also the way he's shot and used in this film, because I was trying to think about this. There's lots of shots in this film where he's waiting... and he's stalking, which is more, I guess, towards Michael Myers.
Yeah.
Like the way that the camera frames him, like he's stalking people, menacing. But then also, unlike Michael Myers, when he's attacking, he's not afraid to like run and chase and be quite like gangly and clumsy.
Yeah. Do you know what? Like some bits, I think are genuinely quite menacing, but then there's other bits. Like I watched it back a few times. When he's walking on the deck away, like back up to the house, he looks like he can't be arsed.
There's a fine line between... It was like Michael Myers, a fine line between pure evil and apathy.
Yeah. He honestly, I feel like he's like... I think in this you can see a lot of the actors like...
Your heart's not in that heart.
Yeah, no, I genuinely...
But I really like the shot... And we'll talk more about it when we talk about the ending, but I'll talk about Jason's performance.
Yeah.
When he looks at her through the barn window, and he's
like,
and you're like, it's quite horrible. Like he looks absolutely unhinged there.
Well, yeah, that little rush down at her as well. Yeah. That's actually quite...
There's a wildness to it.
Yeah, that's quite scary in a way that is a wildness that we've not really seen. But like, yeah, there's a fine line between menacing and looking like you cannot be asked.
But there's a lot more good stalking in this. But I agree, the bit on the J.
I actually really...
He might as well have had his hands in his pockets.
Yeah, honestly, like whistling as he's going back. I actually really like the idea that he... And it feels like he is doing this a little bit, maybe. Like collecting up some of the bodies to kind of use... later on, because it really feels like when we get to it, like the final onslaught on Chris, it really feels like he's just fucking letting rip and like stuff is falling out.
The
and
first couple of films, the first one's
stuff
not
like
him,
that,
but there are a few off-screen kills that are used like that.
Yeah,
like you were saying in Part 2, he kind of uses them as like little scares.
Yeah. And I really like that about him.
Maybe it's like a cat.
Yeah,
bringing you like, there you go.
Yeah, it could be though. That's the thing.
I brought you a little present
because we're still working out like what his motivation is in that, really.
Well, what is it in this? Because again, what we said in Part 2 when we did that last week is Paul, under the pretense of scaring everyone on the campfire, proffers the explanation that it's because he's taking revenge for the death of his mum and he's protecting the lake.
Yeah, I like that.
But then these kids aren't opening the camp again.
Not doing anything.
But he proffers the thing that it's them just violating his wilderness.
Yeah.
So is it the very act of just being there? And what kind of tallies with that is Chris getting attacked earlier.
Yeah.
So Jason is no longer awakened by the date of Friday the 13th.
No.
That you could possibly have speculated in the last film.
Yeah, he's not like getting up and going back to bed at the end of it.
He's not like continuing his mum's work. It's like, they're reopening the camp.
Yeah.
I must stop this because I died there.
Yeah.
It's now like he's just doing stuff in and around Crystal Lake.
Yeah. It's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because why didn't they just go... It feels like saddling themselves with the time deadline of Friday the 13th just gives them this cool thing to go off and do. It's kind of like the Purge, but it's Friday the 13th. And the same like Halloween doesn't do it either. It's like, it doesn't just go, shit, from midnight, Michael Myers is going to be out. And it's like, from midnight on Friday the 13th, Jason can get you, and you just got to survive to the end. Like,
why is he doing that? It's because he died on that day. No, it's his birthday. Or did he die on his birthday? That's the thing.
Yeah.
The available motivations are, the one that was his mum, don't reopen the camp, more kids would die. Because kids can't be trusted. his motivation is, you killed my mum.
Yeah.
I'm going to take revenge on anyone who comes to this lake. Those are kind of two like available motivations. Whereas now it's just like,
I guess they're on the
if
lake.
you're just nearby, yeah.
Near the lake, I suppose.
But then if we talk about it here as well, when we talk about Chris as well.
Yeah.
What's he doing to these women? And we're not going to get into unsavory details because some people do speculate that. But that almost kind of tallies in with what happens to Ginny.
Yeah.
And even Alice in the first film, if we say that dream sequence is real, is the Jason is terrorizing these women, but actually not killing them.
Yeah.
Because presumably that if we're saying the end of 2 is real, he
Yeah.
grabs Ginny, but doesn't kill her.
Yeah, that's true.
Similar way that he terrorizes Chris, but doesn't kill her.
Doesn't kill her, yeah.
Why?
Yeah, do you know what? That is kind of strange because I think the weirdest thing that he does in all of this film is when he's hanging there and he takes his mask off almost to show Chris, by the way, it was me. And then he puts his mask back down.
Because
that's a weird amount of motivation.
Also, one, Chris has not gone, I bet it's that bloke.
Yeah.
But that does apply, like that does definitely imply that he wants to make her scared. Like he's getting off on it.
Yeah.
Like it does look like he's getting off on it though, where he's just like, ugh.
Yeah, that's got to be what it is because it's such a weird move. It's such a weird. I don't know what his agenda is there, other than being a creepy little fuck.
I think that's the thing. The motivation is currently in his world. This is a laugh. Yeah, like he's getting off on it. Yeah, and it's not actually because beginning of part 2, he's taking revenge for his mum. He tracks down Alice to kill her as an act of revenge. Whereas now it's just like, if you come to this lake any time of year, I'll kill you. Yeah. So far, if you're a single woman on her own, I might let you live.
Yeah. He must be shattered at the end of this. Because if he's been up killing...
Mate, he only works one day. Yeah, or does he? I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, this has gone into Saturday. He is like this. You are taking a piss.
Time and a half. This.
He's like, technically, it is the same day, 24-hour period. Don't get me wrong, but I am knackered.
I did some killing on Thursday, if you're counting.
Yeah.
But some other questions raised in this.
Yeah. Is he supernatural? Yeah. One.
Well, so the evidence I would say in this one, it's not definitive. He does seem preternaturally strong. Like, really strong.
Well, I think, to be hanged by your neck.
Well, that's another one. Hanging him doesn't kill him.
Yeah. So to be hanged by your neck from a height with the amount of weight that we think he's got on him, I guess that would snap his neck. It doesn't. And then he's able to reach up with one hand and pull himself up.
I know people can do that, but it's hard. He's high, but that's also he's highly resistant to injury. Yeah, that's after being stabbed in both the hand and the kneecap. Yeah, he's still able to run
to go for it. Yeah,
and then obviously the final one, he gets hung. And I don't think that's a really good moment when she opens the barn door,
and he's there.
And he's just hung there.
Yeah, that is really good.
But he's not quite supernatural, but he's getting close.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is like I didn't get. It's not.
No one on screen is registering it as supernatural.
No, there's nothing in it that I'd be like, oh my god, this guy's supernatural. He's very strong and he can do some odd stuff.
The hanging thing, I think, is the closest you get because you're like, that should have killed him. But he's got a very muscular neck.
Yeah, his hands are so big. Like around like people's faces and stuff like that. Like
that's the thing. He's very. What's the curvature of his back? Yeah, and the way the guy moves.
Yeah, it's pretty good. That's pretty good. Yeah, so we're saying he's not supernatural yet.
Yet
he's just very strong.
He's on his way.
Right. Can we get a little kill overview of the victims, please?
You can, Gavin. There's 12 deaths overall. A whopping 33.3% increase over part 2.
That's massive.
And unlike previous installments, only one of these deaths takes place off screen. It's a veritable bloodbath created by cleavers, pitchforks, and memorably a harpoon gun. There's even time for an electrocution and an eyeball popping out. I do like the eyeball a lot.
Yeah, so we're up. I think it's like a kill every 7.92 minutes.
There you go. Clocking in.
Do you know what? Actually, let's talk about the off-screen one because that one for me is an important one because it's the Shelley one, right? So Shelley gets killed off-screen, and it's kind of a callback to a silly thing that Shelley does earlier.
Yes.
in the movie where he's kind of like this. I think he says at one point about his box of tricks, he's like, "That's my whole life in there." Like he's quite creepy.
Thing is, initially he presents as kind of in the lineage of Ned and Ted.
Yeah.
Like, is Ned Rubenstein, Shelley Finkelstein.
Yeah,
and it's like that thing. He's the loser, but the joker, the clown.
Yeah,
what I referred to previously as the knobhead. But like initially, you feel more sorry for him than the other ones.
You do, because I guess
he plays up the loser stuff, but then he has a bit of a turn later on.
Yeah, but then also he's also been brought there under the. He's been brought as like a guy for a girl, and she.
Well, is he their mate even? Because he's Andy's roommate.
Yeah,
but I feel like he's just brought. It's like your mum going, "Can you?" Like, I've been that kid. Don't worry. Like the other one.
Because I was someone's roommate, like at university. Like I was just given to a random guy.
Yeah, so I think that's the thing. They don't actually know him that well, I don't feel.
Yeah, but that's the thing. That he's like, "Hey, come on." To be fair.
He's trying too hard initially.
It's the weirdest group that we've had so far.
Mm-hmm.
We've got like...
It's a really strange... I've got like one massive question.
Yeah.
Whose friends are Chili and Chuck?
Oh my God, yeah.
Look, do they know them? They have no interactions barely with anyone.
It's really strange.
And they seem way older than them.
Way older.
But they don't barely engage with anyone.
Thing is, I guess it is kind of like a Cheech and Chong send-up sort of thing. But that doesn't excuse anything or doesn't explain anything.
It's just like you're right. There's a really odd group of friends. The Shelley thing is weird because, like you're saying, talking about his off-screen death, like he does the fake kill early on.
Yeah.
And he even, right at the beginning of the film when they're picking up Vera, I didn't say Vera, I said American version, Vera.
Yeah.
He has the other mask on.
Yeah.
So that could have, in another world, that would have been Jason's mask, which is quite cool. It's kind of this like translucent kind
it's very purgy.
Mask. Yeah, it's kind of very purgy, actually. I've not thought of that. It's very purgy. But he does that kind of like mask killer bit there right at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then obviously Shelley's really important to the series because he does give Jason indirectly the hockey mask.
But that's the really one that it kind of timeline wise is kind of bonkers because you don't see Shelley for ages.
Like, and it's a pretty severe neck slashing.
Yeah. So you see Shelley go into the barn with the hockey mask on. Then we see Jason come out with the hockey mask on. And it's ages until Shelley then does the sort of fake out, like, and she's like,
Chili,
and she's like, no,
you cried wolf too many times.
Yeah.
The thing is, I would feel sorry for Shelley largely, but there's a bit later on where he tries and makes a pass at Vera.
Yeah,
she rejects him. She walks away, and he just goes, "Bitch."
I don't like using that word anyway anymore. People do.
Just because she doesn't want to get off with you.
That's the thing, Shelley.
Little creep, Shelley.
I know. Also, what we got to talk about, a pregnant lady. What the fuck?
So I thought that she is meant to be pregnant.
She's 1,000,000% pregnant. I looked this up. Because I thought...
the actors do... Because I just took it as like... I thought they were just mucking about.
Yeah. Pregnant Debbie.
But then they've said, like, some people say it's like, it's to give it more jeopardy. So, well, it's just confusing for me.
Yeah.
I just no way thought they were being serious.
Right at the beginning, they mention it a bunch of times, and then I feel like they don't mention it.
No.
And then it's not like when she's about to be killed, someone's like, no, don't you got a baby in it? Or anything like that.
She's like...
No consequence.
She must have just found out.
Because I thought she was going to go into labour.
But it's like we see her in the shower.
Yeah, that's true, actually, yeah. But I thought at the beginning, when you find out that she's pregnant, I was like, oh, we're going to have this really weird, like, labour scene, and then Jason's going to, like, interrupt that or something like that.
Yeah, I find it more confusing than I feel like it's a plot point.
Yeah. You know that really interesting thing about that lady? She was involved in the O.J. Simpson case.
What?
Yeah, so what's her name? Tracy Savage. So around this,
she's like a newsreader, isn't she?
Yeah, so after this, she basically retired from acting, went to a journalism school, became a news journalist, and then had reported a very specific thing about the OJ trial that became a huge part of the OJ. I mean, like, that went on for ages. Obviously, there's loads of moving parts to it, but she's a huge part of the OJ trial. I know.
How bizarre.
So,
Debbie.
Yeah, so even so, like
Debbie put away OJ.
well, like there's like that. I think like is it like the judge is called like Judge Lance E.O. It was just like he was a really famous. He actually at one point like threatens her with like contempt. She has to like pull out a load of legal shit about.
She's in court.
She's in court. There's video footage of her in court. I watched it, and it's basically her saying like that she doesn't have to reveal. They want her to reveal her sources basically, and Debbie won't reveal her sources.
Does Debbie mention anything about Friday the 13th?
No, she doesn't. But apparently, lots of Friday the 13th fans. I was going to say weirdos then, but we are making a podcast and going to stay there. Fans track her down. Used to track her down loads at her work.
Don't track her down.
And ask her to sign things and ask her loads of stuff about the series and stuff like that as the series got like more popular. But yeah, what a bonkers little tidbit about pregnant Debbie.
I mean, her death is quite noteworthy as well. It's kind of is again another version of the above or below death.
Yeah.
And the echo of the Kevin Bacon one.
I think that's the
it's
cool
almost
thing,
like
yeah.
they've done that in this one. In 2, they do one from above.
Yeah.
And this is like, because Debbie, is one of the shaggers.
Yeah. Jeez.
So Debbie and Andy, isn't it? So those are our like, rutting couple in this film.
Yeah.
So post-sex, that's how she comes back to bed and like Andy's above her. Andy's kill is absolutely brutal.
There's a couple of, I think, that's what I mean, like, this is the most fun because I do think a lot of the kills are, like, the knife going through the neck, while maybe it doesn't look as realistic as the Kevin Bacon one, it's way more disgusting because it's obviously
There's like a stretch to it.
Yeah, because it obviously doesn't go right.
Yeah.
Because, like, the neck thing almost, like, tense up.
Yeah.
And then you got to watch this knife come through. Oh, it's absolutely disgusting.
the Andy one, like, you get a sense of how strong Jason is.
Yeah.
When he just absolutely, like, splits him in half.
Well,
when he's
yeah.
doing a handstand. But then when Debbie dies and she looks up, you can see like his guts coming out.
Fucked up. He's like almost like bent him
like
over.
you see his
now.
intestines almost uncoiling.
So it feels like he has actually maybe like split him down or whatever. Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like we were talking about Jason being like super strong. That takes some doing. Probably, I don't know. I've never tried it. But the other one is like Rick's head crush as well.
That's amazing.
That's so good.
Also, if you're doing a 3D film, I've got the kill for you.
Yeah. I do not care that looks so crap.
I actually think it adds to it.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
It's absolutely brilliant. That's the thing. Is like I feel like this film, in
there's
everything I've read,
like a sense of fun to that.
Yeah, in everything that I've sort of read and watched and stuff in the leading up to this podcast, this film unfairly gets a bit of a kick in.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this one.
Thing is, there's something in this is the whole reason we're doing the podcast. We're going to do a podcast about a shite series. There's something in every single one of these films, but I think there's more going on in this that I was like, this is a good laugh.
There's a reason this is like such a popular franchise. It's like even if you don't think the great films are like, we can obviously make that. These are great fun movies.
Yeah,
and there's like you said, there's a lot going on in this one, and I think no more so is that more emblematic than a biker gang. I was really racking when I was watching it. I was like really racking my brains about like, what is the function of the biker gang? And I came up with a few possible explanations. One, there's another antagonistic force in the film that's not Jason.
Yeah.
So if you need something like just another little bit of tension, that exists.
That's
also,
true.
You increase the body count without increasing the friendship group.
Yeah.
So you're just more fodder.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, because it's also a different type of person for Jason to kill.
Exactly. So my third explanation is someone that wouldn't be scared of Jason.
Yeah, that's
because Ali gives him some. He's come on, then.
That's a good point.
Because all the main characters, they're all college kids. Yeah. They're terrified immediately.
Whereas I guess these are adults, aren't they?
Yeah.
And
they're also like outlaws. They're criminal. I don't know. They're hard asses. Is that a phrase?
Warriors.
Yeah, warriors.
Like that's because they're
Mad Max.
That's what they look like, isn't it? Like,
but they're up for a bit.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Ali,
actually,
Fox, Loco.
We should keep an eye on that as well as it goes on, because I guess like as the series goes on, it branches out a little bit more. It obviously has to go to different places and things. Like how many people are killed are still like sort of teenager age, and how many then go into like adult age.
Soldiers.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because they piss them off at the store.
Yeah.
So it gives them a reason to like track them down. So immediately you've got 3 more kills for Jason lined up. You're just going, there you go. It's like Deliveroo for Jason.
Yeah, you're right, because it's not just going, because that's the thing. We have no idea why those two stoners are friends with them. So it's like, imagine adding another group of 3 people.
There's barely enough time for them to interact.
Oh my God, yeah. At least you can go like, here's these 3 people. They are bullies. They're in a gang. They will die.
Yeah.
Off the top of my head, I don't know if there are. Does he ever kill any like straight up kids? Like, do the camps ever open? Or does he?
The thing is, if camp opens, he's fucked up.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, yeah, he's had a bad day.
Or maybe like it opens and he's like, actually, can I have a go at the canoeing again?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I actually like this.
Like, does he ever? I don't know.
Well, we've got weeks to find out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Do you have a favorite kill of all of them?
I think it is Rick. I do like the harpoon gun.
Harpoon to the eye, yeah.
The Rick one is really good.
Electrocution is something that I really associate with this film, like death by electrocution. I think that comes back a lot.
I think
in these
Jason
movies,
as well.
Like, yeah, that's a good point actually. I feel like
you fear electrocution.
Yeah, electrocution is quite a big thing.
What about you, Rick, as well?
I think it's Rick, but I also I think just for the weird neck thing, Debbie. I think that's really good. I'm also like a big fan of Harold as well, like the Harold death. Like, just because you get to see like Jason's big hands.
Yeah.
And
the knitting needle on Ed though.
Yeah,
as well, that's
yeah.
a good 3D.
Again, like giving him another set of people to kill.
Yeah.
And this interesting.
Well, and also the thing with the prologue kills, you need some kills up top.
Yeah.
But they can't be in your main cast because they would stop what they were doing.
Yeah.
They wouldn't get to the lake.
Yeah, no.
So you need almost these prologue kills to either be back in time or disconnected. Otherwise people go, what's going on?
Yeah.
Because you never get the happy setup.
No. It's weird seeing the parallels between like the new Halloween trilogy and these movies. Because like there is like that type of character that turns up quite a lot at the beginning of those films as well, where there's like a couple of deaths, someone for Michael to kill.
It has to be, yeah.
And then it's just a little bit of fun.
They have to be disconnected because otherwise it would impact the main story too much.
Yeah.
Like if Chrissy's best mate died in the first 5 minutes, like it's a very different film.
Do you know what I also think is really like strange, I guess, like just thinking about it, because sometimes we get a lot of stuff up top of like a recap of the previous movie. So you get to see quite a lot of the kills in that. Is that more of a function for the cinema? Like, you know, like in the trailers now, like instead of getting like a previously on, like for trailers, you get like that mad like explosion bit at the beginning of a trailer, like
it's a bounce rate.
I feel like some of these are quite long.
Yeah. Also, I wonder if they get it into edit and it's like, this film's only 70 minutes.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Like, we could do another 10 minutes on this.
Do you want every single death on the first one? Like, they'll love that. Is there anything we can learn from our victims?
Well, we need to.
Yeah.
we need to learn a lot, because I'm looking at this calendar and we're going in 11 weeks. Because you know what I'm genuinely worried about?
Yeah.
Is one of our rules from last week, no skinny dipping.
Yeah.
Is they go skinny dipping in this. Shelley doesn't, because he's not so skinny, he says.
No, that's sad.
And they still die.
Yeah, that's true.
But I've been thinking about these rules.
I got a couple of good ones.
It doesn't mean doing it's not going to be the determiner whether you live or die.
No.
But if it gives you a percentage increase chance of living, that's all we're doing here, is we're getting percentage increases.
Okay.
It's like small margins. So if no skinny dipping gives us 1% better chance of survival, it's still worth abiding by.
Okay, I like
that's
that.
The way to think about it. So I've got now no handstands.
Yeah, I've got
don't piss off biker gangs, or actually piss off biker gangs.
Yeah.
Increase the chances of more kills. Don't eat lots of weed.
Yeah.
And then this is a tricky one.
Yeah.
Is it possible for us over that 24-hour period to exist only in 2 dimensions?
Yeah.
Like, can we be flat?
Can we be flat? Yeah. The weed thing is interesting, because I think that is a lot that it feels like that's written by someone who's never eaten.
So I don't know a load about drugs. What would that do to you?
I think it would fuck you up. For the amount that they eat, I feel like it would mess you up. We wouldn't be seeing a lot of them doing stuff for a few hours. Sick? You might be sick.
Like you would just feel like not just in a bad mental place, but like physically unwell.
You would probably be physically sick, and then you would probably be quite high for a long time in a way that would not be fun. You wouldn't be giggly or anything like that. You'd be more like...
And this is a bad time anyway.
Yeah, I think they'd be high for the rest of the time that we see them in this movie. Whoever's eating stuff is going to be off their tits for the rest of the movie. Another thing, don't eat fish food. It's
like
what's Harold doing?
Eggs. To be fair, he's eating a bit of everything in his shop. Just
stop eating. Yeah. To be fair, I used to do that when I worked in a wine shop and they had loads of snacks and stuff like that. The amount of snacks that I used to have in like
why are
a
these Pringles
4-hour
half
shift.
eaten?
Yeah, no, it was bonkers. I also used to have to do the stock take, and that was so embarrassing because they'd be like, "Oh yeah, like it feels like we're really down on these bags of pistachios," and we're like, "Yeah, that's weird, isn't it? Who would steal those?" Anyway. On we go.
Are you like going outside emptying pistachios like Andy Dufresne and
Shawshank? Just like they make such a rattling as well. Yeah, I think that's a good one. I think also if we want to look at the gang in a different way, don't be bullies.
Don't be bullies.
Don't be bullies. Don't because we're going to be going into shops. We're going to go into in like small town places. I want to be friendly to those people.
I want to be friendly, but I don't want them saying to me like you're on poor stamps.
Oh, was that?
Where's that come from?
Yeah, if someone looks at me and says they don't pause that,
bully them. No.
I would bully them. No. Yeah, I think that's good. I think like have a good impact on your surroundings by not bullying them. But also, yeah, watch where you're eating. Definitely no handstands.
So we both got no handstands.
I think if we said no handstands, they'd be quite cheap.
I can't do a handstand.
I don't even know if I could do a handstand.
I can't.
So I think be nice to shopkeepers.
It's a good rule. You know what?
I think that's a good
one. If we just come up with like 10 rules for life.
Yeah.
I will bring up this one. I've brought it up 2 weeks in a row now.
Okay, yeah.
Because we haven't ruled it out yet.
Yeah.
Is the no shagging.
Yeah.
And like what we're saying with skinny dipping.
Mm-hmm.
Now we've got 3 films worth of data.
Yeah.
We need to think about it in these terms. Lots of characters so far have died that haven't shagged in the duration of the film.
Yeah.
But within these 3 films, everyone who has shagged has died.
Yeah, that's true.
So 100% hit rate now.
Yeah.
If you do shag, you definitely die. That seems to be the trend.
I think that's a good one to keep an eye on.
But we're not ruling out yet.
I wouldn't put it in. I think we should keep that one
in our back pocket for the last film.
Yeah,
if we need it.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
For this one, I would say
be nice to shopkeepers.
Be nice to shopkeepers.
Because to be fair, existing in 2 dimensions, it's not really feasible.
If you want to take that one on, in After Effects, that's fine. I think be nice to shopkeepers. We're going to come across a lot of shopkeepers.
Be nice to shopkeepers.
I think
unless
that's a good one.
They say we're poor.
Unless they say we're poor. So what's our lessons so far now?
Okay, so we've got number 1, no strip Monopoly or a strip variant of any game or pastime.
And we will be playing a lot of Uno,
but not strip.
Because
I'm a beginner still. I don't want to be just in the nip.
Maybe we do play.
2, no skinny dipping.
Yeah.
Like from this film, we know it's not, but it could be. If it makes a percentage difference, it's worth not doing.
Yeah.
3, be nice to shopkeepers.
Fantastic.
Those are solid life lessons.
That's good rules.
It's going to be like sunscreen.
Yeah.
That's to the graduating class of '94.
You know, there's a thing of people that believe that song had like an actual impact on us as people.
What, our gen?
Yeah.
I can't even tell you what they are. So I don't.
Well, no, it's just the sunscreen thing. Like just the wear sunscreen song.
Oh,
that's had an actual impact.
Could you
on
name
skin
any lessons?
cancer?
Actual skin cancer.
Yeah, on actual skin. Yeah.
So, right. Okay.
Apparently, skin cancer numbers are way down after that song.
I mean, if we can go any way to diminishing cancer through this podcast, I think that's a successful podcast.
We should end with us doing the song.
Yeah, we'll do that. To the graduating.
To that.
Okay.
That's wicked.
We'll do that in the car trip there.
Yeah, that's good. All right, we've talked about our victims. Let's talk about our survivor, Chris.
Chris is. I feel like Ginny is feels a more immediately gutsy character. But when you think about it, Chris has survived 2 encounters with Jason.
Yeah.
Alice didn't.
No.
Alice died in her second encounter with Jason.
That's a good shout.
The killer.
Yeah.
Chris has this traumatic incident that she relays to Rick from like a year or so ago.
Yeah.
Which is really horrible and confusing. She just wakes up in her own bed again.
Yeah.
And her parents don't want to talk about it.
I guess, that's quite hard.
I mean, there is a really unsavory interpretation of it.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
But it's confusing. But what I would say from that is she is incredibly brave. And I don't know whether that's part of the psychology you want to impose on it. She's going back there.
Yeah.
To face this fear.
Yeah.
To have some kind of mastery over it.
Yeah.
And not to move on with her life. Unfortunately, when she goes there, Jason turns back up.
Yeah.
But she then kind of conquers it, even though at the end she is taken away screaming.
What I would say, though, is she has a good go in a way that is becoming a cool thing in these movies. Like, it almost, like how the movies are up in the actual kills. I feel like by this one, they're up in like how cool and how into fighting the final girl is.
Yeah, I think because she is obviously understandably visibly scared for a long time. But when she's in the closet, she comes out with a knife and she comes out swinging.
Oh, yeah.
And she really injures Jason more than any other character has so far.
Yeah.
She stabs him in the knee, stabs him in the hand, and she gets away.
Yeah.
But I think like Ginny had more like attitude.
Yeah, that's true.
She definitely did when she was interacting with Paul, and she tried to understand the psychology. To be fair, Ginny was more prepared. Yeah. She knew more about Jason.
Yeah.
Whereas Chrissy
that's
doesn't.
the thing.
This is her attacker from a year ago.
Do you think that's what I was going to say? Do you think she knows do you think she knows before he takes the mask off and goes, "Where's me"?
Definitely seems that registers as like, oh, it's that guy. Now, you would think you would go, oh, it's that guy.
Yeah. It's probably a more elegant way of doing that than have Jason go,
yeah.
That's essentially what he does. He doesn't talk, does he? No. So he just goes, all right.
But what's the funny thing, though, is I love that she's, if we read it as her coming back to the lake to kind of take some kind of control over the horrible traumatic thing that happened to her.
Yeah.
I love for the first part of the film, Rick is so impatient with her because he just wants to get off with her. He goes like, do you know I could have been hanging out with this other woman? And he's just like, come on. He looks about 47 as well.
Yeah, he does, yeah. He's one of my most hated, I think, out of all of them. Like, there's something going for the other ones kind of make me laugh and, in different ways and stuff like that. But yeah, he's such a bellend.
He's a massive dickhead.
But yeah, I think she does actually go for it. Like,
why is it? I don't know if there's anything like tangible she does.
I think there's one.
There's like abstracts of like being brave, facing your fears.
Well, I've got one thing that I feel like we can learn from her as a survivor. The axe mark in his head.
Oh yeah.
That stays forever.
Okay.
So
leave a mark.
Leave a mark. Make an impact is what I would say. Because
is this your motivational course?
Yeah,
which is available on Patreon right now. Because How to Make an Impact with Gav Murphy.
That stays in his mask forever now. Yeah. Even like it for every single Friday thing with after that.
The one that got away.
Make an impact.
I really like that.
Yeah.
Make an impact.
So what lessons have we got?
I've been Jason Voorhees.
Yeah. What lessons have we got so far?
Learn how to tie knots. How are you getting on with that?
Oh, yeah.
Which ones?
Bill, big time.
You're going to have to do this in
big time
in America, okay?
Oh, yeah.
Number 2, our favourite, spend most of the night at a bar or pub nearby.
I've been practicing that one.
And number 3, make an impact.
Make an impact. This is good.
Good.
We're getting there. Right, let's talk about the ending.
We've got another like double scare.
I love it.
Yeah.
I generally love it.
No sense.
No.
But sod it.
I actually kind of really enjoy the idea. It's the same director as the last one. I actually generally really maybe he knew he wasn't going on to do another one.
Yeah.
So maybe he was just like, well,
they don't mind.
Sort this out.
Steve Miner, just do it.
Yeah.
So the initial one, because it does have they all have kind of a sort of wishy-washy like dream logic to them, like the music and the transitions.
Yeah.
I do find him looking out of the window and then scrambling to her really scary because you're in the middle lake. So even though you're isolated, you're like, well, I can't get away quickly if he's running at me. And then you get kind of the retread of part 1 where Pam, head now back on her body, comes out of the lake that grabs her, which then does apply that's the same lake.
Yes.
But to be fair, Pam didn't drown in the lake, so
no,
that maybe doesn't matter.
And her head isn't attached to her body either.
Yeah.
Like,
it does look cool.
Well, I think that's the really interesting thing, isn't it? You've kind of, I love it, but you've also got to go like, well, Chris doesn't even know who Pam is. So
well, that's another thing. That's a really good point. If it's a dream, how's she dreaming about a woman she's never heard of?
Yeah, exactly. So Chris doesn't know who Pam is, for one. So we've got to say that this is real.
But we know it's not real because at the end, that goes back to real life. Because we see her being driven off by cops, and then the camera goes and Jason's still dead in the barn.
Well, maybe that's the supernatural element.
Because there were a few different endings to this, but
maybe that's the dream.
That's the dream. The real one is.
But maybe the supernatural element to it is that they are so possessed with that lake that if you go on it, weird shit happens. I don't know.
I do like the ending. I do think it is quite effective, even though it's kind of a weird mishmash of things you've already done before.
I like films having like the function. Do you know what I mean? Like oh, this is the scene that they have to have in this. Like the beginning of a James Bond.
This. It's like if you don't have the the James Bond.
Yeah, or like like you're saying, like the Marvel like post credits or something like that. Yeah,
I want that thing.
I like that they've have this to play
and they
with.
Do the double one here, where it's like, well, Jason's still alive. I got you from behind with the Pam thing, because you never expect the Pam thing.
No, you wouldn't, because it doesn't make any sense. Yeah.
Just then when you were talking about like continuity and people on set just making decisions, this is because it's just a really modern phenomenon that we live in a world now that you have people employed at companies that are in charge of the lore.
Oh yeah,
like this was never the case with Star Wars.
No,
he just made it all up.
Yeah,
but then same with all these things. We now live in a world where all these big storytelling franchises have to have this like internal continuity.
Yeah,
whereas they were just going, a bunch of kids going, what's the coolest thing we can do? Anyway, do you think you would have survived Friday the 13th Part 3?
But I think I'd have been killed by the bullies, because I think I would have stood up to them in a more aggressive way, because I wouldn't have liked being spoken to like that. So I think I'd be dead before we got.
Like you in a cinema.
Yeah. Oh man, I think we'd be dead. I'd be dead before I got to the lake or anything. So no, I don't think I would have survived it. But I also don't think I would have met Jason either.
But you would have been very nice to the shopkeeper.
I would have been very nice.
I've seen your shop etiquette.
So maybe if I was nice to the shopkeeper, they would have stepped in with a gun or something like that.
That's,
shot the bully.
That's sliding doors, isn't it?
Then I'm alive. Then Jason kills me. Absolutely fine.
It's 11 weeks until we stay at Camp Crystal Lake. If you don't feel ready,
I don't.
That's okay, because next week we're coming back and we're doing this again, and we're saying goodbye to Jason apparently, because it's the final chapter.
The boy, is he dead too?
Ma'am, we didn't find any boy.